of a very famous Olympian, Svetlana Boginskaya. Very classy, very elegant. She puts a lot into the choreography as well as some pretty interesting tumbling passes.
This one right here, this is amazing. Front layout full, right into a laid out front somersault, but she steps out of it. Really neat. She's not as powerful naturally as some of the other athletes on the floor, but in this exercise, she really had no major errors at all, and this is so beautiful. Triple full, and she just rocks the landing right there.
And there is the score for the Sinewy Horkina, 9.825. Next up for the Americans, Kerri Strug, and the fact that she is even competing here today is simply remarkable.
A lot of people just decided that, you know, I was out of the picture. So I feel like I have something to prove, to show that I can still come back and do well, even with all the changes I've gone through.
Kerri Strug has been through much more than most elite gymnasts. There have been the coaching changes and the injuries, but none quite like this fall, one of the worst in recent gymnastics history. Kerri's mother and father were there that day, watching their daughter take what was supposed to be another easy step in yet another comeback.
It was a nightmare until we learned that she was safe and that it wasn't a serious injury and that she had no neurologic deficit and that she was going to be able to go back to gymnastics, which is what she wants to do.
You can get hurt doing anything, so I just have to move on and keep doing it.
And she probably is her own worst enemy. She expects more from herself than probably her coaches, and I know, than her mom and dad expect from her.
Kerri Strug, smiling again, seems to have put it all in perspective.
And you know, Dan, with all the competitions preceding this final, I can pretty much say that she has mentally and physically, she is still very much in the game.
Unhidden bars, it's all about letting go, flying high, and catching the bar again. First release right there.
Second release skill, she is looking incredibly strong. I'd say she's pretty much picked up where she left off in world competition. Of course, one of the seasoned veterans on this team and an outstanding dismount.
Great landing.
17-year-old Kerri Strug turns 17 the day before this finals day of competition.
As I said, she's just picked up where she left off. This was an incredibly strong routine filled with 2 release skills, and the dismount was by far one of the highlights. Look how much height she gets on that full twisting double back, and she knows exactly where she is.
So important. You got to stick the landing. The last thing the judge sees, it's what puts an exclamation point on that routine right there.
And the score for Kerri Strug at 9.675. So the U.S. team seems to be rising to the occasion without Shannon Miller, and now it is 17-year-old Amanda Borden's turn.
And Dan, you're right. This team has not been rattled at all by the fact that Shannon Miller hasn't been here competing today. And I'm sure, Tim, you'd agree that this has been the year of Amanda Borden. She is far more confident in her gymnastics than I've ever seen.
No doubt.
2 big release moves that she's planning in this routine. The first one coming up right here.
She really gets a little bit of air on this release right here. She'll do a full twisting giant right into a reverse heck. And look at the height. Talk about it on vaulting. When you have a blind landing, it's very difficult. Right there.
Yes!
Handles it, though. Just a small little hop. That's a great exercise for Amanda Borden.
Beautiful. You couldn't ask for better.
17 years old from Cincinnati.
Take your time.
She really put it all together. You heard Coach Kelly Hill say, beautiful, you put it all together. Great release skills. She really had a great package and performed very beautifully. Here's her Jaeger release skill, very high, bang on. She moves down to the low bar, but the one move that has given Amanda a few problems in the past, it was that blind landing on the dismount, the double front. Your timing has to be, oh, so perfect. Here's the half giant skill. Right into that double front, well above the high bar, and you can see just a tad bit of over-rotation.
Amanda Borden competed at the 94 Individual World Championship. She was 8th on the bars there, and there is her score on the uneven bars. And now Yelena Piskun, our first look at this 16-year-old from Belarus.
And she is extremely exciting. This is a dynamite routine, and as I mentioned, Lilia Pokapayeva from the Ukraine being the bright spot of that team, so is Yelena Piskun on this team. She has so much difficulty.
First major tumbling element on the beam. Right on.
There's one skill coming up where she'll perform a full twisting element on the balance beam. It's one of the most difficult moves you can do in women's gymnastics on this little tiny 4-inch balance beam, and here it goes.
Oh, boy.
That's really a shame. She nailed it the other day in the preliminaries. That's a real shame.
It's the whole thing about gymnastics. You always have to push the envelope. You always have to try to do something a little bit more difficult, risky, and sometimes that's the result.
And how tough is it to begin the competition on the beam?
Well, it's very, very difficult, and you have to remember, she knows, too, whenever you fall off the apparatus, it's an automatic 5/10 deduction. It certainly takes herself out of any contention of doing well individually. This is a team championships, but certainly she's the leader of this team. She'll have to get back on track here. Dismount, double pike somersault. And she just nails that landing, but remember, 5/10 mandatory deduction.
Really a shame because this is such a high-level skill. Back handspring in combination with that full twist. Boy, your timing has to be right on shoulders and hips, square to the beam, and as you can say, very frustrated with that fall.
And the 9.2 score reflecting that fall on the balance beam by Yelena Piskun. And now our first look at 18-year-old Dominique Dawes, the U.S.'s best, the national champion, celebrating her 18th birthday on this final day of competition. And with the credentials that Dominique has piled up, and without Shannon Miller here, she is the one that has to come through big.
Well, you can bet that all eyes are on Dominique at this point. She is the anchor for this team, and she has a new skill that she'll unveil in this bar routine. We'll set you up for it. Very exciting release skill right here. It's called a Hindorf.
Look at the height. Wow. Now she made a little bit of an error there, a little bit of an improvisation. But this routine nowadays is so jam-packed with difficulty and so exciting. I really don't know if it's going to hurt her score. Dismount, just a little bit of a shuffle on the landing there. Actually very uncharacteristic for Dominique Dawes. She usually puts her feet on the ground and they don't move too often.
Smart. You were smart. That was good.
And
very, very
Coach
nice.
Kelly Hill telling Dominique, smart, good job. She recognizes that Dominique changed the routine, but as we said, has a lot of difficulty, so it probably won't even show up in the score.
And boy, when she unveils a new skill, does she ever do it well? That was an incredible release skill. Very few women in the world perform that move, and then she tops it off with terrific dismount. Watch the height that she gets in the first salto. Two giants in combination, and then there's the skill way up there. And as you said before, Tim, a little uncharacteristic shuffle on the landing.
The score for Dominique Dawes, the highest of the Americans on the bars at 9.825. So the standings after one rotation, the United States, without Shannon Miller holding more than their own, they lead Russia. Still 3 more rotations to go for the United States, and the first rotation yet to come for the favored Romanian team led by their coach Octavian Beilu. We'll be right back to Dortmund.